Hi, welcome to Mixed Media Creations with me, Creative Katie, Karen Birchill. Did you know that you could follow me on Instagram? www.instagram.com/CreativeKatie. Subscribe to my channel and share with your creative friends. Today we're doing index card a date number 20. It's entitled Gratitude. And I'm grateful for all my subscribers here that have allowed me to do something I love and to share it with you. It uses mixed media technique tag skill number 18, creating collage sheets, and number 8, shading. I'll put a link to both of those videos later on. Links to products that I use can be found in the description box below. So I'm starting again with my recycled flashcards that I've just rounded the corners of one side of it. They were rounded. And I'm grabbing this collage sheet. This is a collage sheet that I made. I think I may have even made it in the video that I'm going to link to. But I just love the colors. As I'm flipping through my piles of collage sheets and gel prints, I'm looking for inspiration. I was just inspired by that color. I'm trying to figure out my silhouette cameo and cutting on stencil material. This is the Crafters Workshop stencil blanks that I cut on here, and I'm having some difficulty. So if anybody has a silhouette and they cut out stencils specifically using the Crafters Workshop blanks, leave me a comment below. I'd love to pick your brain. So I cut out these feathers. And, as I lay them on here, I'm thinking, oh, I really like how that looks. So I'm going to use both of these things to create this ICAD today. Now, using gel prints or collage sheets that you create allows you to just save time when you want to get a quick, easy card done, because you've already done all the hard work. You have all the stamps and stencils, and you just use something from your stash. So here you see me using my archival ink in black, and I'm just stamping the script stamp behind. The collage sheet that I have has been done on deli paper, and so it will be somewhat translucent, which means you can see through it. So I thought, gee, it would be nice if some of the script, you could see the script peeking through. Just adding one more layer. Creating your own collage sheets is also a great way to play with colors. This is where you just have a sheet of paper. It can even be on recycled stuff out of your blue box. You can just go to town, pick some different colors, different stamp stencils, and see what happens. You're not really risking anything because you're not doing it on a page. And trust me, you're going to end up creating some wonderful pieces that you're going to be able to add as a background or as a collage piece on some upcoming pages. So I'm using Mod Podge matte to adhere this collage sheet to the back, to the card. And I just want to make sure I get some of that yellow in there to have some variance. And I'm kind of wishing that I had more yellow on there. I'm thinking about doing a series on building your stash and just doing different things with, that you can build up your stash so that you can lessen the load of when you are actually doing your creating. You can go to a file folder and you have a lot of stuff that you can just pull together and then put together on a page. So I start out and I'm using my Stabilo oil pencil in white, and I'm tracing the feathers on that. And I actually end up doing that and moving along and getting into the shading process. But when I had a problem and I went to erase it, I found that even the acrylic paint I was putting on wasn't staying on top of the deli paper. So to fix that, to make it adhere a little bit better, I grabbed some clear gesso. This is from the Crafter's Workshop, and I'm applying a coat of the clear gesso to the entire surface. Now what that's going to do is it will dry clear, even though it's going on milky here, but it will allow other mediums to stay on that surface. I think the deli paper is kind of waxy, and nothing was permanent, even the acrylic paint, because I was able to lift it, which benefited me in this instance because it wasn't going the way I wanted it to. But if you need, to preserve what's underneath, this is one way to do it. It's just something I'm starting to play with. I haven't done a whole lot with clear gesso, but this worked well. So instead of grabbing my white Stabilo, I grabbed my Inktense pencil in this, is it Merlot color? It's 610, I believe, or 600. It's one of my favorite colors, and both in the block and the pencil, it's one of the most used ones that I have. I'm a big fan of the burgundy colors. And I'm just drawing these feathers on here. Some of them are going off the page, and I'm trying to tilt it going different ways, not being overly predictable. I may have crowded the ICAD a little bit, but again, that's personal preference. Now the Inktense pencil are permanent once they're fully activated and once they're dry. So I won't have to remove them as I would the Stabilo All pencil. Now I have some burgundy paint there, and I'm using my shading brush, and I am floating acrylic, and it's one of the ways that I shade. I could have just activated the Inktense block, and I'm kind of activating both at the same time. And you can see how this technique and the shading just makes these feathers pop out of the background. And this is a technique that I use a lot to get, sometimes different effects. You can use a lighter color and highlight, or a darker color and shade. But it's one way of using negative painting and, make things pop out of the background. And I'll put a link to my starfish video canvas that I just did recently, where I use this technique. So I'm going around. Now the difficulty here is the feathers themselves are quite small. They have these little jagged parts, and they're close together. So that is a little difficult. I could grab a smaller shading brush, but the best bet is to do some, let it dry, come back. You can always add more and make it darker. And there you see me doing exactly that. I wish when I did folk art painting and I learned this float technique, somebody had mentioned a heat tool to dry, because I spend so much time waiting for it to dry, or not waiting and then having a problem. So I had this sentiment. I think I was going to use it, I think, in the last video or ICAD, and I didn't. So it was kind of right on my desk, right close up. So I grabbed it, and it seemed to fit. There seemed to be a little bit of an empty space here, and so I just wanted to fill that in. now that I know where my words are all going to be going. And I decide that I can put the sentiment on top of the feather. So that, this also shows you another way of using your stencils. You don't have to stencil through those stencils. You can use it as basically a template or a tracer. If you don't have a feather template, you can go find feather clip art and just cut it out on like manila tag board and make your own tracers. Well, since I have the burgundy Inktense block, I'm just going around the edge because, again, I know this is going to be permanent. And when I go and apply varnish on this one, because I think this one I'm going to turn this into a fridge magnet. I like it enough that it's going to warrant more finishing. Also I'll put a gel print on the back. I may even put some more of the same collage sheet that I used on the back, and then put a fridge magnet, and I'll put a link to those. And then you have usable art. Somebody was asking, do you varnish all your stuff? And I don't. It depends what I plan to use it as. So I get an idea that I'm going to add a bit of gold inside each of these feathers. Well, first I think I'm going to put a line on it, like the center of the feather. And I didn't like that, but when I go to wipe it off, it kind of makes for gold right across the whole thing. Like metallics are really hard to completely remove. They seem to always leave a residue. And then I think, oh, I'm just going to put a very light wash of gold on there. So I've thinned the gold down, and I'm really liking how that shimmers. It almost turns bronzy because of what's underneath. So I'm torn because I really like the addition of the gold, but I did also, as I'm really watching this video, I really liked it before, just peeking the collage sheet peeking through. Two different looks. It's kind of, I'm putting a glaze of the gold on top. So I really think I'm going to attempt to do a canvas just like this. And that's one of the advantages of doing the ICADs and doing small art. Sometimes I get tons of ideas of what I can now take and use and do on a canvas or for wall art. Gotta splatter it with gold. I think I edged it with gold as well. Now I have the sentiment, and I'm using the Ranger Cut and Dry foam, which I have now learned to prefer over the makeup sponge. And I'll put a link to that. And I'm just using Plum, which is a burgundy color of archival ink. You could use black if you wish. I just didn't want to introduce black to this. And the sentiment goes, gratitude turns what we have into enough. So again, thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please leave a comment, give me a thumbs up, and I'll see you for the next ICAD.